Call meeting to order. Pledge of Allegiance, Councilmember Lawson.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Larkey,
Here.
Councilmember White,
Here.
Councilmember Powell,
Here.
Councilmember Pryan,
Here.
Councilmember Kraft,
Here.
Councilmember Clark,
Here.
Councilmember Goff, Councilmember Lawson,
Here.
Councilmember Richardson.
Here.
We have a quorum. Due to some timing measures, we're going to skip item 4 and come back to that here shortly. So we're going to go on to ordinances. A motion approving the final reading of Bill 2022-27.
An ordinance of the City of Belton amending Chapter 2 Administration, Article 2, Officers and Employees, Division 4 Personnel Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Belton, Missouri.
Present. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
This one is a roll call.
Oh, second reading. Roll call. Sorry.
Councilmember Richardson.
No.
Powell.
Yes. Yes.
Pryan.
No.
Kraft.
No.
White.
No.
Lawson.
No.
Clark.
No.
And Mayor Larkey.
No. Motion carries. Or motion fails, I'm sorry. B, motion approving the first reading of Bill 2022-38.
An ordinance of the City of Belton, Missouri, amending Chapter 19, Streets, Sidewalks, Rights-of-Way, and Other Public Places, repealing Chapter 13, Article 12, Parades and Processions, and amending Appendix A, Schedule of Fees and Charges of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Belton, Missouri.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? All against?
Aye.
Motion fails. Item C, motion approving the final reading of Bill 2022-55.
An ordinance amending Sections 10-1 through 10-14 inclusive of the Unified Development Code related to the adoption of 2018 International Building Codes and the 2017 National Electrical Code with local amendments.
Present.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Go ahead.
My question to you, Matt, for all these, by the way. Now that we're switching over to this, how do we communicate that with the architects, builders, everybody involved? Is that a mass email? Is that as they call in, we're just going to instruct, or I don't know how we do that?
We are going to post that on our website and probably put out some social media information about that. And we'll also have a posting in the lobby. So when people do come and pick up their permits or apply for a permit, they're aware of that change. So the way that will work is between now and the end of the year, we will be reviewing plans under either 2012 or 2018. Starting January 1st, every permit submitted after January 1st will have to be under the 2018.
So we do give them a little bit of a variance time-wise to either or?
Yeah, there's a approximately 90-day grace period.
All right, thank you.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Lawson.
Aye.
Powell.
Yes.
Richardson.
Aye.
Pryan.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Kraft.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Mayor Larkey.
Aye. Motion carries. D, motion approving the final reading of Bill 2022-56.
An ordinance amending Sections 16-1 and 16-2 of the Unified Development Code related to the adoption of the 2018 International Fire Code with local amendments.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Pryan.
Yes. Aye.
Kraft.
Aye.
Powell.
Yes.
White.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Mayor Larkey.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Motion carries. E, motion approving the final reading of Bill 2022-57.
An ordinance amending Sections 10-138 and 10-139 of the Unified Development Code related to the adoption of the 2018 International Property Maintenance Code with local amendments.
Present.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Mayor Larkey,
Yes.
Councilmember Pryan,
Aye.
White,
Aye.
Richardson,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Lawson. Aye. Powell,
Yes.
Kraft.
Aye.
Motion carries. F, motion approving the final reading of Bill 2022-58.
An ordinance amending sections 20-5, 20-6, 26-5, and 28-8, Chapter 30, and Appendix B of the Unified Development Code to modify existing regulations and adopt new regulations to improve the effectiveness of the code.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none,
Councilmember,
go ahead.
sorry.
No, you're fine.
Councilmember Richardson,
Aye.
Powell,
Yes.
Pryan,
Aye.
Kraft,
Aye.
White,
Aye.
Lawson. Aye. Clark,
Aye.
Mayor Larkey.
Aye. Motion carries. G, a motion approving the first reading of Bill 2022-59.
An ordinance of the City of Belton, Missouri, approving the 13th Amendment to the Old Town Belton redevelopment plan to approve the 211 East North Avenue project as redevelopment project 2022-5 and to authorize tax abatement as described therein.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. As Andrea stated, before you this evening is the 13th Amendment to the Old Town Belton redevelopment plan, and it is the long vacant site, and the address is 211 East North Avenue. And this is the first new construction project that we have under the Old Town Belton redevelopment plan, and the project costs that are associated with this application are just under $716,000, which qualifies this applicant for Level B up to 12 years of property tax abatement. The Planning Commission did approve the final development plan on September 19th, and the application for the Old Town Belton redevelopment plan was received on August 11th. The board unanimously recommended approval on August 17th. Notices were sent out to the taxing jurisdictions per state statute, and in a few minutes, the public hearing for that will begin. Right now, I would like to introduce the owner of the Scooters franchise. His name is Mr. Jack Burdick. He is present this evening, and he is a resident of Raymore, also the owner of the Raymore Scooters. So this will be his second Scooters location. And at this time, I'd like to invite him to the podium to introduce himself and provide a little bit of background about why he chose this particular location.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for allowing me to be here. My name is Jack Burdick. As Carolyn said, we're here in Mass with my brother David and my son-in-law Thomas, and we are Burbar Investments that is creating the scooters here, or your scooters in Belton. We're delighted to be here. We're anxious to begin serving our customers here in Belton. I have a long time history in Belton. Today I'm a Raymore resident, but I have a history in Belton, going back to high school. We put a lot of thought into this location, and I have to say that a significant part of that planning was the Old Town redevelopment abatements. That was significantly influenced our decision to go here. We feel really good about the site and just have always had a love for the Old Town part of Belton. So I'm just excited to be here, and I'm glad that we can get up and get going.
Thank you.
We doing questions now, or?
Change the way we're doing this. Right. All right. I will, a public hearing regarding the proposed 13th Amendment to the Old Town Belton redevelopment plan for redevelopment project 2022-05 pursuant to section 353.110.3, parentheses 2 of RSMO. Public hearing is open. Anybody wish to comment, come to the podium and speak your comments. Hearing and seeing no volunteers, I will close the public hearing. And any council debate? Go ahead.
I just have a statement for the gentleman over here. I just appreciate your investment in our community. When Ms. Yasik told us what was going in that spot, I'm sitting there going, I can't find a better business for that spot. So I just wanted to congratulate you on coming to our community, and just thank you for the investment.
Thank you so much. It did fit like a hand in glove.
It did.
I don't think we have 3 extra square feet to spare, but it's a beautiful fit.
I always figured out what could we put in that triangle for the last 40 years, and we figured it out finally, so.
I've been driving past it thinking of a location in Belton for about a year and a half now, and it just dawned on me. So it all worked. Thank you so much for
And I know the people on the west side of Belton will be happy to have a coffee house on their side of town finally, so that's all I saw on Facebook. They're excited they don't have to either go across the bridge or to the bridge to get coffee, so it's gonna be good to have something on the old town, so thank you.
I think so too. I think it's going to do really well. So, and we're focused around great service and great products. So, thank you.
Anybody else?
That's fine.
Go ahead.
And excuse me, this is nothing about scooters. I think it's a great deal, like Dave said. But I have a question for the 353 Planning Committee or whatever. When a previous council adopted the 353 on February 9th, 2021, one of the things says the improvements included with the request for abatement for commercial properties shall be at least 50% exterior improvements so as to be visible to the public. So did you do that analysis, and can you show me that it is 50% is applied to the exterior? Because it looks to me like a lot is applied to the foundation, to the internals, and not 50% to what's visible to the public. And maybe we can sort it out before the final reading next time or something. But that's just the question I had.
Some of the costs associated with our soft costs, which are, excuse me, let me flip through this packet. So environmental studies, civil design, architectural design, all of those are exterior. The site work is obviously exterior, and the building construction. I mean, granted, there are internal walls to this, but the budget that was submitted is mostly exterior, and I do believe meets the 50%.
Well, I see plumbing at 50,000, electrical at 50,000, mechanical at 20,000, and foundation is a lot too, and just maybe approving the site is part of exterior, but I guess my real question is, do you guys, when you have these meetings, do you do that calculation? Or are you doing it now on the back of an envelope?
No, I'm not doing it now on the back of the
Okay,
envelope,
okay.
but we do have discussions about this, and it did go before the board, and it was unanimously approved.
Okay.
I think these are, Councilman, if I may, Mr. Mayor, I think these types of issues with the 353 approval process are definitely appropriate questions to ask. I think that we should take that to the 353 board to ask some of those questions specifically, if I may,
Yeah,
so they can answer their rationale.
Great. I
Rather,
appreciate it.
I think that's a fair place to have those questions.
Okay, thank you.
Also, do I not?
Hold on.
Well, I mean, Councilman Powell, I mean, I've driven by that spot for 48 years, and anything that goes in there is going to be more than 50% improvement in that spot, in my mind. I mean, it's been a gravel parking lot and weeds and nothing really there. So I think when you say improvement, you're looking for a structure that we're improving, but we're actually improving a lot. We're actually putting something there.
I totally agree. I mean, I don't have any problems with that. I think it's a great location for a great.
I know, I
coffee
guess I'm
shop.
just trying to figure out what you were asking then, because you said did it improve more than 50%, and I'm sitting there going, it improved at 100%.
No, that's not the way it's read. It's read that the abatement shall be at least 50% exterior improvements. And you were on the council when you approved this, so.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, maybe the simple answer is get rid of this as a requirement for commercial property. I don't know, but I think, so it's not addressed to this particular project.
I
It's
guess
to
the only-
process of the 353.
I guess the only place I look at that actually could be brand new is that spot. Everything else already has a building structure on it other than maybe your property across the street. But I mean, if you're down on Main Street, everything's gonna have a building on it, basically, so.
And that's what I thought that the goal of 353 was to improve properties. And in reading this and going back to the state law, I saw that it also involves new construction. And I don't think the state law prohibits or has this exclusion, but for some reason, Belton's, what you guys passed on February 9th, 2021, does have that. So I mean, I'm all for taking that out, and that would save a lot of work for our staff too, to figure that out, but
Well, that'd be the board, I guess.
for the board, yeah.
We'll take it to the board.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman
Go
White.
ahead, Carolyn.
I did just want to point out that I'm looking here at the budget itself, and so I would division, or 4 through 16, the interior costs, or what I would think that you would be associating with interior costs totals $302,000, and the total project cost is $715. So 50% of these budget items, this does meet 50%.
Well, again, if I could see that in writing, I'd appreciate it. I mean,
And I,
Go ahead.
also, didn't we have some additional requirements for the outside? When they were from the original?
Yes, we had landscape improvements that we asked for them to make, and also some adding some sidewalks and curb that were not on the original plan.
So the committee did take that into account because
Mr. Mayor, if I may, real quick, just to kind of hopefully tie this up into a little bow. If you look in the plan that was approved by council, it does say it should look to allocate approximately 50% to exterior and 50% to interior costs. However, it does leave a little bit of wiggle room. It says percentages may vary with the key consideration being both the exterior and interior must be brought up to the desired standards subject to the board's review. And so there is a little bit of wiggle room. It's not like it has to have that cut and dry 50% requirement anyway. So I think we're okay with this, especially since they approved it unanimously. But I still think it's worth at least bringing to the attention of the board, just to let them work that out in the future.
Absolutely. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, that done. We're gonna go back to item 4. Personal appearances, acknowledgement and recognition of the Belton 150 birthday celebration. Can Diana come up? And Michelle? Okay. Do you wanna do your thing first and then we'll go around the room?
Thank you to the mayor and council for inviting us this evening. We appreciate it. We did have a reception this evening before city council meeting where we were able to, as a committee, on behalf of the city of Belton, thank all of the sponsors. There are too many of them to mention in council meeting this evening, but there are so many people to thank for making that celebration 5 days long what it was, starting with Wednesday night with crowning Miss Belton, to Thursday night's dinner under the stars, to Friday's tailgate, and then all day Saturday with the vendors and the parade, the bands that we had, the fun things that we did with the kids. On Sunday, we did breakfast. We had car show, and we had farmers market, more bands. We had free ice cream social. So many of the things were made free for the entire community to enjoy. And that was because of the generosity of the citizens of this community, the businesses in this community, many of them who are here this evening. And so on behalf of the committee, thank you so much for choosing Michelle and I don't want to speak for Michelle, but for choosing us to to co-chair this event, and I would like to personally thank all of the folks that are here tonight, those who weren't able to come, for all the work that they did to make this event so special. Saturday night, the actual 150th anniversary was an amazing spectacle. If you haven't seen the pictures on social media, please do go out and take a look at that. We have estimates that between 4,000 and 5,000 people were on our street, on downtown Main Street, enjoying themselves. And one of the reasons was the sense of community that we have here, the pride that we have in our community and of our town, the fun things that we were able to offer. The highlight of the night came when Tate Stevens, who is here with us this evening, was able to do a concert on the 10th anniversary of winning the X Factor. And if it weren't for him, I don't think that we would have had the show that we did. So Tate, from us, thank you so very much for what you did. Thank you for coming back. It was an amazing night. Thank you very much, Michelle.
Diane couldn't have said it any better. I completely agree, and I just want to thank everybody who helped. There were people that day that showed up that didn't even volunteer to help ahead of time and just jumped in to do what they could, where they could. And thank you for the mayor and council for agreeing to put this celebration on. I know the city really enjoyed it. So many people just came up to me and messaged me and emailed me and called me to tell me what a great time they had, and they would like to keep the birthday going every year. So, but thank you to everyone who was involved.
Do you have any comments? You.
Just thank you for all the efforts.
Councilmember Powell, do you have anything?
Oh.
We're gonna go around. We're gonna go around.
Oh, okay,
Thank you.
yes, again,
Want to
thank
say
you.
anything? If you want to say anything.
It was great, thank you.
I would like to first thank the entire committee. We started out, I want to say, around 20-ish people on our committee. It dwindled a little, and then it grew back to even far more than 20. It was handled so amazingly. You guys did such an amazing job and did so much hard work. And I also want to throw in another thank you to Michelle and Diane. It was perfect. You guys did an amazing job.
I'll just echo thank you to everyone that participated in helping, and usually co-leaders don't work out too well, but you seem to offset each other when one was one would elbow the other or whatever to make things work, but it did. It went off without a hitch, and if you don't like what you're doing now, I guess you can run city events from now on.
I'm just going to echo everybody. I've been in this community for 48 years, and that Saturday night was probably the funnest night I've ever had up there. So, I mean, community days was fun as a kid, but I was a grown man up there just smiling for what you guys did. So, and Tate, thank you for coming back, and Elijah Chastain put on a heck of a show too. And, you know, I just want to thank everybody that was involved, and it took a lot of work, and I know you guys know that, but I just thank you guys, and when's next year's show is what I need to know.
That was my next question.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. You have my deepest respect because events are very hard and scary to put on, and it went super great. My in-laws are old enough to remember the 100th birthday celebration here in Belton. They're just barely old enough to remember that. And I'm excited for my daughter to have been a part of this at 4 years old. I mean, it was start to finish fun, everything, but the dunk tank was awesome.
Thank you, all city council members who took a turn in that.
Which is not this guy, but go on.
He bailed.
I kind of saw firsthand everything with these two, and these two, when they get together, it's ideas never stop. It's 11, 12 o'clock at night. One of them will be texting the other, or the other one's getting a text, and them two together work amazing. And I couldn't be more proud of them two, what they've done, and for Tate to come back. Everybody working together, and we had a lot of free events for everybody, for the kids, which was a big thing that they wanted to do. But I just appreciate everything that everybody did, and the work that went into it, and it was amazing. Thanks.
Thank you very much. We do appreciate it. We do want you to know that while Michelle and I enjoyed ourselves and we did work hard, but we did it for a reason. We wanted to make sure that this was an event where Belton came off as a shining star. And I think that with the help of so many, we were able to accomplish that. And I really want to make sure that the folks here in the room tonight who helped us, that over any part of that 5-day celebration, whether it was with dollars, if it was time, if it was driving a cart and herding people, whatever it was, coming to the committee meetings or just being there to answer questions. Thank you. Thank you all so much, and you deserve a round of applause.
I think there's a lot of other cities where the Chamber of Commerce and the city and downtown Belton Main Street and the train and the park and all the sponsors can work together to put something like this on and not have it be a mess. So, I mean, I think that just speaks volumes about Belton.
Greg, your staff, they rocked it.
Oh, yeah, they were great.
They rocked it. Parks and Rec was amazing. Everybody was. Thank you. Thank you all.
All right, you two come up here. I just want to, when this came about, I knew these two ladies were the two to pull this off with Angela's help as well. So I'm going to keep this short because we got a long meeting. I'm going to present Michelle Mellinger Richardson with the key to the city. And the key to the city to Diane Huckshorn. And again, I want to thank everybody that, whatever they did for it, thank you, and thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now let's start arguing.
They gotta take over, right?
What, yeah, where's everyone going?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
You're missing the best part.
Cupcakes out there.
Exactly.
Well, they don't wanna watch your work session?
Right.
Do we have a recess that we forgot to be told about?
Resolutions. A, motion approving resolution R22-101.
A resolution approving a side letter amending the current collective bargaining agreement between the City of Belton Fire Department and the IAFF Local 42.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Go ahead.
I've asked you many times why we can't do a lateral move, and you've always told me a lot of it has to do with our contract, and this is the change that we probably needed. I guess my question, what we gave up, are we going to be able to attract enough people to give up what we're giving up? Whichever one of you guys want to answer that question.
Well, so on the first part of it, I have no idea what we will attract yet. As of yet, we haven't gotten anything since we started advertising. As far as our give up, I'm assuming you mean the paying time and a half guaranteed for mandatory overtime. In the long, kind of over the long haul, that's a pretty small actual financial cost to us, in particular when we're fully staffed, because mandatory is very, very rare. It's always offered first under voluntary terms, which is already, usually they're taking voluntary because they're still earning the time and a half because they haven't used sick leave or vacation. So I don't see it to be a huge financial impact, and it's yet to be seen whether the move to offer lateral pay is going to attract what we need or not. That's what I hope, but.
Well, I thought, you can correct me, I mean, you've been here, and I was off council for a while, but I know there for a while that we were having issues with firefighters taking off or calling in sick, so their friend had to come back and do mandatory overtime so they could get time and a half. So we got rid of it for a reason over the years, and I'm just trying to figure out why. I mean, we got rid of it, now we're bringing it back, so.
Yeah, I don't think what we're bringing back is quite what you think we got rid of. There were two things that went away over the years. One was the 1.9% overtime rate, and the other was that vacation time counted towards work time, right? So those did save financially for the city a great deal. I wasn't in on those decisions, so I couldn't tell you exactly why they went away. Nor could I really attest to the abuse of anything during that time either. We have several people that enjoy working a lot of overtime and will take a lot of it, but this particular year has been a bit of a difficult one with the amount of people that we've lost, and so there's a little bit of they're wearing down just a little bit due to we've had some COVID sicknesses, we've had some work comp, we've had people gone, and so a little more overtime than what would be normal during the year. So.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Any other discussion?
Yes,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I don't understand lateral moves, but is this a lateral move within the city or a lateral move? Somebody just shows up and they prove that they have 5 years experience?
Yeah, this would be a new hire from another department.
Oh, okay.
So what we're doing is we're giving them credit for the experience they have. So how many ever years they have, up to 5 years of verifiable service for another fire department, we would start them on that step instead of step number one.
Gotcha.
It's very common in the professional world, you know, in the business world, but it's not common with us. We're kind of stuck on, you're the new one, you start at the bottom, and we're learning that that's not a model that's going to be that's going to be helpful to us moving forward.
Yeah, when I Googled it, all the examples were about interior company moves, not something like what you're describing, so that's why I appreciate the explanation. Thank you.
Anybody else? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. B, a motion approving resolution R 22-102.
A resolution appointing R.J. Warren and reappointing Kelly Monahan Bass to the Planning Commission.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. C, a motion approving resolution R 22-103.
A resolution approving the purchase of one 2022 Cat 440 backhoe from Foley Equipment Company in the not-to-exceed amount of $188,615.76.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. D, a motion approving resolution R 22-104.
A resolution approving A resolution approving change order number 1 with T.C. Fuller Construction LLC for the Cambridge West Culvert Project in the not-to-exceed amount of $111,604.21 to cover costs due to utility delays and additional work.
Present.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, I'll let you on that. You go ahead.
Has Spire made it out yet?
They're scheduled to come tomorrow.
And last week, and
Week before.
Okay.
You want to explain this a little bit better for everybody? Not that it hasn't, but just give a little bit more insight into it. Such a large amount, so.
So this change order covers two things. Specifically, we had $60,000 with a delay claim from the contractor who had to have his equipment sit there during this time period while we're waiting for a utility to be moved. The other half of it is while he was sitting there, we also decided to do additional work. So the sidewalk that leads up from the creek toward the school is in poor condition. And so we took the opportunity there's actually a tree was causing part of it, so we removed a tree and we replaced some sidewalk that was in poor condition. When you get to the top of the hill, you go across the street and then cross the street again. So we eliminated one of the crossings and met with the neighbor across the street and built a piece of sidewalk in their front yard. There hadn't been a sidewalk there before to make a connection up to the school. So that way we try to improve the walking path from Timber Creek all the way up to the school. There's also at Cleveland and Cambridge in the northeast corner, you probably see this large concrete thing there, sitting there to protect a valve and a hydrant. We decided to take the opportunity to correct that and actually make it into a normal corner where people won't hit this or be scared of running into it with their cars and make it a safer intersection there. So we're taking the opportunity to do a little extra work, help the community while we're there waiting for this to be moved.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead.
Also, I believe, Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, that if we did not have the extra work for that contractor, I believe we risked losing them to another job, and then they'd have to remobilize to come back. And so we would have had to owe them the $60,000 for the delay. And then if they would have left and had to come back, we would have had to wait on the availability of them to come back, and they would have had mobilization costs that we would have had to cover to get them to finish this project. So to us, that extra $50,000 that were coming to you as part of this, change order, justified not having them leave and then have to come back and then just pay that mobilization essentially, or a lot of that mobilization when we can actually get some improvements for our community while they're here.
Any questions? Go ahead.
I've had citizens asking, can we / why aren't we having Spire pay for the delays?
Good luck.
So that's a great question. So under a franchise agreement, they are only required to tell you that they are going to fix it and when they're going to start, but they can say, we'll start it within the next 2 years and be done. Now, when we originally met on the project, we all agreed, meaning not them, but the other utility companies, the fiber companies, the electric company, us ourselves, we had a water line that had to be moved. We all agreed on what the timeline was going to be, so that's how we started and proceeded that way. So everything was going great until one person decided they weren't going to show up. And that's why we ran into the problem. But the franchise agreement does not allow us to have a penalty against them to do that.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor, if you may, one other thing, I think it's important for the public to know this, because I understand a lot the frustration that they're bearing the brunt of this delay, because that's essentially created a hardship in that area for a prolonged period of time. That's not, when we're not getting any progress done because of this. I just wanted to, we are learning from this. And I think that the utility company, Spire specifically, had in the past had been pretty reliable. In the recent past, had been pretty reliable on the timelines. And I'm not saying maybe they're having issues with staffing or availability. I don't know what their issue is. I know this isn't unique to the city of Belton, having to wait on these types of things with them specifically lately. But we're going to make sure that when we're doing projects in the future, that we get these utilities handled before we start our construction, so we don't have this type of issue coming up in the future. So we are learning from this as well.
Anybody else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda. One motion, non-debatable, to approve the recommendations noted. Any member of the council may ask for the item to be taken from the consent agenda for discussion and separate action.
For that.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or any items want to be removed? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. City council liaison reports.
I'll start with parks. Right now, there are winter youth basketball signups happening, as well as adult volleyball signups. The Parks Department did receive a $40,000 grant through the Missouri Department of Natural Resources Solid Waste District for the Memorial Park playground renovation project, and that will have groundbreaking in spring of '23. There's also a Chills and Chains Glow Disc Golf Tournament at Cleveland Lake on October 28th. In the last park board meeting, we discussed disc golf as a draw to Cleveland Lake and kind of the culture of disc golf finding Belton, and then we're a desirable location for that. So that's been really interesting. Disc Golf Worlds Tournament was in Emporia, Kansas not that long ago, and golfers made their way up through Belton to play our course. So disc golf is catching on around here, and you might be hearing more about it, which is exciting. They will be announcing the new aquatics manager soon, and our parks will resume all aquatics operations on December 1st. Also, just a shout out to the barbecue at Memorial Park last month. That was a big success. So thanks to everybody at Parks for all their hard work and the great programming we've had going on.
Any questions? Go ahead.
How do we charge disc golfers to use our course now? That's the only thing. We got to pay the regular golf, so.
You picked the wrong sport, man.
I mean, Jay's over there saying, man, they get free golf. I don't get. We still got to mow it. I mean,
the tournaments obviously generate revenue like a baseball. Are you being serious? Okay. I was ready to chat about it. All right.
Pretty soon they're going to want carts out there too, right?
Jay's got some extras. You got anything?
Planning Commission discussed the coffee place and we approved it.
Go ahead.
The TDD, not the TDD that was on the consent agenda, but the one, Belton Cass Regional, met last week, readopted their budget, which I reported last time was about $2.5 million. They still have a relatively low interest rate agreement with the bank that's loaning them money for the Mullen expansion project. And they concluded that the $6 to $8 million Mullen Road project can start as early as next March, since the utility companies involved are planning to have the electrical, gas, etc. moved this winter, and two parties with land for the roundabout are close to agreement. In fact, one of them agreed, and the other one's close to agreement, and that's all subject to be corrected by Mayor Larkey or Greg.
Pretty hit it on the nose. Anybody else? Any other communications?
We're on city council now?
Yeah. That's why I moved it, so go ahead.
I'm not used to being up there,
I
so.
moved it because it flowed better.
I got to fill in for the mayor, and me and city manager Joe Warren got to go over to the Belton Senior Center and celebrate a 100th birthday party. And Mr. Dick Morse, I believe was his name, was, if I make it to 100, I hope I have his mind and body. He was pretty sharp, and someone asked him his military ID from 1940 or whatever, and he rattled it off like it was yesterday. So that was an experience. So you don't get to see 100-year-old birthday parties very often. So the only thing I have for my ward is, Mr. White could come over, and we have a lot of tractor trailers, and we've talked about it over the last, and we're moving signs around. So I did get a call today, and this is probably for the chief. I had a resident behind Chewy that wanted to know if there was actually an active shooter. How are they going to get notified if they were in danger or anything like that? And I told her that you guys had a plan. That's just, I'd ask you.
With the incident that happened today, it was contained to the east, and we were on scene. And so if we thought that incident was going to flood into another area, we would actually use, we have a system, Everbright, that we would actually notify, Everbridge, that would notify people in that vicinity, and we've used that from time to time for other things, most recently for the active standoff that we had over off of
Argus?
Argus, yes. Sorry, it's been a long day.
Yeah. So that would go to like specific areas of the town then, is how that happens?
Yeah, we coordinate those off. It's a geofence we put up, and then we can make a message to that area.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Ward 4 had a meeting last night. It was well attended. Various parts of our ward was there. They met our city manager and shared a lot of concerns and issues that they would like to see us work on. So I'm very pleased with the turnout and the feedback that they gave us. So we will be talking about it and seeing what we can do.
Anybody else? Think about that a second. Anybody else? All right. Only thing I have again is I just want to thank everybody again, for the 150th birthday party. A lot of the public works guys worked their butts off late into the night and initially starting, they weren't going to do anything, but then they were all for it and they were 100% behind everything we were doing. So I especially want to thank them now too. So that's all I have. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I have a few things to announce. The first thing I want to recognize is that we have our new finance director, and she is here tonight. She doesn't have a name apparently yet, but she does have a blank slate. Casey Cohen is here, and we'll get her nameplate for the next meeting to make sure that she's fully recognizable. Thanks for coming. And so just to introduce her to the community, we'll have some finance stuff coming up in the near future that you guys can mull over. So there's that. The budget calendar, I think I've shared this pretty much with everybody on staff, and I just wanted to publicly point this out to those that are watching, where we have a very kind of in-depth budget timeline, and it begins with public engagement and the ward meeting. So if you want to have some input on what's going on in the fiscal year 24 budget, as a resident, please come out to those ward meetings. At least you don't have to have some kind of a financial background or understanding of what you want. If you just have some needs or some wants, that's a good chance for you to go ahead and download those to your ward representatives and to myself. I'll be attending those ward meetings to make sure that we're taking that into consideration as we start preparing our 2024 budget. And then, we'll just go through the process with as public a process as we can make it. So you'll see it here before you guys in a couple of meetings with some workshops and stuff, and we'll make sure to advertise those. So if the public's interested, they're welcome to come and pay attention to those, because that's where all the money is allocated essentially for the year. And so if you want to know where your tax dollars are going, that's where you need to come, is to those budget things. So there's that. And a couple other things. We are fully staffed in finance now. I'm happy to report that. We've got some great folks. Yeah, definitely. It's we had to kind of retool there, but we are really excited about the staff we have in finance right now. We've got some great people who are really, they fit the roles well, and I'm we're going to be up to speed quicker than I would have anticipated, just because I think that we have capable folks in that group, and no pressure. Also, I think we've got a new CBO on the way as well, so I'm excited about that as we keep working toward being fully staffed in our community development areas. And the last thing I want to report is I'm actually got a meeting this Friday with Jamal Gungar. I don't know if you guys know who he is. He's the city administrator up at Grandview. I think it's important. I'm going to be reaching out to all of the area administrators and managers to make sure that we have open communication to see where we can work together to one, be more efficient for all of our taxpayers, and to see where we can be supporting and helping of each other, because we are one region, and we deal with a lot of the same issues, and the people that live here utilize the businesses and the services and whatnot throughout the area, and sometimes they don't stop at the city limits, and we recognize that, so we want to make sure we're being responsive as a group. So that's all I've got.
They're still talking to us after they found out we stole Luke's?
I think we just broke that to them at MML, and so I didn't think they even knew that was coming, so we'll see.
Good. All right. Items for review and discussion. A, Southview Commerce Center boundary expansion presented by Carolyn Yatsik, Economic Development Director.
So just a little bit of background on this topic. In June of 2020, City Council approved a petition by ordinance that established the Southview Commerce Center Community Improvement District. And a community improvement district is a special purpose district in which property owners within that boundary voluntarily tax themselves. And that is to fund a broad range of public improvements. A couple of examples of those are streets, water, sewer, stormwater, landscaping, sidewalks, signs, and street lights, just to name a few. At that time, the boundary in that CID included the boundary of buildings 1 through 3. And bringing this to your attention because at the next city council meeting, there will be a petition to amend the original petition to expand the boundary of the community improvement district. And the new boundary will include building number 4, as well as, well, let me back up. There's going to be 2 ordinances that will come before you. The first is an ordinance to withdraw 3 parcels from the Grand Hills CID. That Grand Hills is the duplex community that is on the outer road, and that CID was established in 2015 to pay for a sewer lift station. They were having some difficulty with DNR, and so a CID was created for that. And so another ordinance will also be coming before you to expand the boundary of the Southview Commerce Center CID, like I said before, to include what is now building number 4. So per state statute, there will be a public hearing, and the notice for public hearing did go out to the newspaper for publication. And notices were also sent of the public hearing were mailed to the affected property owners within both of those boundaries. And so that's just to give you a heads up as to what's coming at the next council meeting. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Any questions? Go ahead.
It's not a question, a statement. What I learned from you on that earlier is that they're going to buy out of that old CID too, and I think that's important for city councils and the community who's interested to know about
Sure.
on the sewer district.
Yes. So the 3 parcels or the 3 properties within the Grand Hills CID are the 3 structures that are they're on Grand, and they are the southeastern 3 properties. And they were having some groundwater issues, and so North Point Development went ahead and purchased those 3, and so they would like to go ahead and expand the boundary to include those. But first, that CID, the Grand Hills CID, had to meet and agree to let those 3 properties out of their boundary, and so they have done that. And then the Southview Commerce Center would like to go ahead and absorb those 3 properties into their boundary.
Anybody else? Hearing none. Item B, new state statutes for home business licenses presented by Matt Wright.
Yep, the state approved some new state statutes related to home-based businesses that went into effect at the end of August. Those new laws provide limitations on restrictions that cities can adopt or enforce on home-based business activities and licensing requirements. The law does protect no-impact home-based businesses, which does include most of our currently licensed home-based businesses, as well as possibly include some business types that are currently prohibited under our code. So staff is currently reviewing those new laws to bring forward code amendments that are in compliance with the new laws in the future, while also providing reasonable regulations that protect health and safety in residential neighborhoods.
Any questions? Seeing none. Item C, traditions rezoning and preliminary development plan presented by Matt Wright.
Yep, we are currently reviewing a rezoning and a preliminary development plan submitted for the last undeveloped parcel in the traditions. This is for approximately 1.5 acre property at the southeast corner of Mullen Road and Sycamore Drive. The applicant, Silly Development, is requesting to rezone the property from C2 PUD to R3 PUD for the development of 6 duplexes on the property. Public hearing will be held by the Planning Commission next Monday, October 3rd at 6 o'clock to review the request and hear from anyone wishing to speak in support of or in opposition to the request. And the Planning Commission's recommendation will be reviewed by the City Council on Tuesday, October 11th.
Tuesday, October total of 11.
Correct.
Any questions?
Sorry, real quick, Matt, will you repeat when they're having their meeting with residents over there?
So there is a neighborhood meeting
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Okay.
I believe that is at 6 o'clock at the Traditions Senior Villas Clubhouse.
Thank you.
Item D, dump truck purchase, presented by Greg Rokos.
So in last year's budget, we were authorized to buy a dump truck. But as most of you know, buying vehicles over the last 2 years has been somewhat of a challenge. Dump trucks are no different. And so, because they're basically a semi-frame that we're on. And so we've had an opportunity to purchase trucks. And so, big dump trucks, we're not talking about just a regular pickup truck. And so, in our normal VERP, we call for a truck to have been purchased last year and one to be purchased next year. We have an opportunity to buy 2 trucks, so we're going to bring an ordinance forward to purchase 2 trucks. One would be the money that we currently have in this year's budget. The trucks won't be delivered until sometime the end of 2023. So we'll just ask for that in next year's budget because it's already planned for in the VERP and it's funded in the VERP. And so we would go ahead and just authorize the purchase of these 2 trucks now and receive them hopefully before next winter. And
Any questions? Item E, City Hall Annex emergency sewer repair.
as many of you know, since the bathroom wasn't usable for many weeks, we ended up having to dig up the floor through the building and lay a new sewer pipe from the bathrooms all the way to the main connection. And so we completed that repair. It's $44,000. We did it under our emergency contract to get it done. And so we'll be bringing forth that task agreement for that contract.
Any questions? Anything? Item F, Main Street Water Line Improvement Change Order Number 1.
So when we started working on the Main Street water line, the Main Street water line goes from South Scott all the way up, well, it's on Walnut, all the way up to just behind Main Street, and then to 2 blocks behind Main Street. This is a critical line to be put in because it services all the businesses in the area. And without replacing that line, nobody could get fire suppression, and we had a lot of difficulties. Basically, that line was only about 2 inches in diameter by the time we pulled it out. It was also significantly old that just working around it, the line was continuously breaking. We originally negotiated a contract with Bright Construction to do the work, knowing there's a lot of unknowns. All the contractors we talked to were scared to take the job on because it's a significant amount of rock. It goes by AT&T, and there's multiple utilities. There used to be a water tower behind City Hall, so there's multiple water lines that we didn't even know existed. And so in doing the job, we discovered a water line that was installed in the 1920s to as early as maybe 1930. It broke on us twice. So if you live on 2nd Street in that area to the south, downhill, you know there was probably 4 or 5 times that the water flooded in that area as we'd find different parts and different pieces. When we went and called for utility marks, no one told us there's a double fiber optic duct bank in the alley. So there's multiple challenges through this whole job. So it proceeded slowly, and I know the road's been closed a long time. There's been lots of holes. You've seen it. It's been one of the most difficult lines that we've ever tried to install. Because of that, we ran into overages that we just could not foresee. I mean, many of them. So the change order is going to be somewhere in the $200,000 to $250,000 range to accommodate all the things that we found. I hope this never happens again, another water job, but this is one of the most difficult that we've ever done. And so the contract's taking a lot of time. We've kept everybody in water, so nobody's been out of water the whole time. But it's been a difficult job, and we're just glad it's over because, as you know, this is important to the city to have water along Main Street and along Walnut. There's only one other cast iron line left in the downtown area. So that's what's going to be coming.
Any questions?
When's it going to be done?
They're finishing up right now, fixing all the patches in the streets. And so the water line's actually connected right now.
So we'll get rid of all the detour signs pretty soon, is what you're saying?
Yes. I agree with you.
Anybody else? Item H, Mark Regional Preventive Maintenance Program Agreement.
Yeah, skip one.
Oh, I thought I just did G. Sorry. G, on-call water, wastewater, stormwater, and other city assets, RFQ.
So from time to time, we have on-call contractors who are there to help us do different jobs at different times. So on a annual basis or semi-annual basis, we go ahead and issue a new RFP or RFQ to go out and select contractors, because some of them we've selected in the past, they work out, and sometimes they don't. And so we're always looking for additional contractors to fill in the gap, to do more work for us as we go do our job. So we advertised it. We came up with 2 more contractors submitted, and so we vetted them. They seem like they're good contractors to work with. We actually worked with both of them in the past, and so we're going to be adding them to our on-call contracts.
Any questions?
Yes. You have special ones like we see Bright a lot, and we see, is it Kissick or one of those other ones? Is like Bright, like the water and sewer line people, or?
A lot of them do duplicate things. So right now, of course, we're looking for more people who do water line work, because we're going to be doing more of that type of work. But a lot of these contractors can do anything from water to sanitary to stormwater, and because we have a lot of different emergencies that come up, and we just try to have people who can cover it all. We also have people on call contracts who can do work at the treatment plant or a specialty in that area. So we can, if we need something very quickly, we can get it done.
Anybody else? Item H, Mark Regional Preventive Maintenance Program Agreement.
As part of all the different COVID bills that got passed through Congress, one of them allowed for the MPOs to receive a certain amount of money to do some construction work. So as the committees that meet with the public works directors, the easiest thing to do is to divide the money based upon how many lane miles you have and do one contract. The contract we'd like to do is mill and overlay. So Mark is giving us this agreement, and we'll be able to have them mill and overlay $133,000 worth of Belton streets at no cost to us. There's no match, there's no nothing. They just they're administrating the contract and everything.
You said 133,000?
Correct.
Well, how much is that gonna be?
We're gonna look at doing something like working 163rd Street in the rough area to try to smooth it up, you know, because there's areas that our reconstruction doesn't cover. And so we're gonna try to fit that into different areas like that.
Because I didn't think 133,000 went very far with streets.
It's not gonna go really far, but I'm not gonna turn away $133,000.
Exactly. Anybody else? Any questions?
Quick question.
Yeah.
I think it was Mark, didn't a year or two ago we get the 91 my mic, didn't we get the 91 million or so for North Scott? When is that going to start?
Well, it's $1.9 million.
1.9, okay.
I love your optimism.
There you go.
But that money doesn't become available to actually October 1 of this year.
Okay.
And so October this one, you already actually started the design of it. And so in the spring, we'll put that out to bid and be able to do that construction.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else? Item I, vehicle purchase for police department.
In this year's budget, we had 8 police Explorers that we were going to be ordering, and those were supposed to be 2022 models. The cost for each one of those vehicles is $33,924 each. And we were alerted to earlier this month that Ford is about ready to shut down the line and to get orders in, and we were not guaranteed whether or not that pricing was still going to be good. We might get partial of those vehicles, or we would have to be moved to the assembly line for FY 2023 models, which is a 25% increase in the vehicles to 42,475. And a lot of this is due to some of the issues related to the automobile industry. And so what we will be bringing, once we figure out which models we are getting, we may have to pare down 2 vehicles to 6 instead of 8 to cover those costs. And so we'll do that internally so we come in within budget. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Item J, budget amendment and code amendment for HR director.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor and Council, as you're all aware, we had, in this year's budget, we had a position created for an HR specialist. That job was posted before I started, and it was still, we closed it after I'd started, shortly after I started as the city manager. And we didn't have a good turnout on applications, so we pivoted from that point, and I think it's important enough that we have a director level person to handle HR. I think that for risk management purposes, if nothing else, it's important that we get someone to help us mitigate some things before they become major HR issues and end up becoming lawsuits in the long run, I think. And it's important that we have a standalone person who essentially just has a dotted line in the organizational chart to the city manager, but is not underneath anybody else in the organization to allow for kind of an unbiased, neutral, and confidential place for employees to go with concerns within the organization. And so what I'm going to be bringing forward in the future is the creation of that director role in that department, so to speak. It probably won't have anybody underneath it. It might have one person to start, and if it is one person, it'll be someone we moved from finance. It's currently HR specialist and the HR director, right, as we've amended it, are under finance. But to get it as its own standalone department, we do have to come to you guys and have an ordinance to pass that, and we will be doing that. Good news on that front, though, we do have an HR director hired. She is going through the screening process. We don't anticipate any problems with that. And we should know in the next day or so our results on that. And that person would start on October 24th is the start date we've identified. So the next meeting will be coming forward with something for you guys to start preparing that department. Okay?
Any questions? Item K, purchase policy.
Yeah, I think it's
purchasing policy.
Purchasing policy, yeah. Purchasing/procurement policy for the city. I think it's important that we review this. I think we've got some outdated spending limits, and when I say spending limits, I think when you think of things that require 3 bids, you think of things that are routines potentially now that would require 3 bids, and sometimes if you look in the current environment. Especially these low-level things, getting 3 bids is not even going to be possible. There might not be that many vendors in the market that have this availability and whatnot. But anyway, we're going to look at the entire purchasing policy, and I've literally got purchasing/procurement policies for 5 area cities in the region that we're going to be looking at to try and look at ours and make sure we're doing best practices within the area. And just to give you kind of for instance, in 1972, when the first purchasing policy was approved here at the city, I think the 3 bid rule was for purchases at $500 or more. And if you were to, and I believe ours now is at $1,500, if I'm not mistaken. But if you were to take that $500 in 1972 and apply inflation to what that would be in current dollars, it's over $3,500 is what that would equate to. And so we just want to make sure that we're not restricting routine purchases and spending a lot of staff time, just chasing extra bids just for the sake of trying to meet the code when they probably have established relationships with vendors. They know what things cost. They know what's going to be cheaper and what's and what's worth it in the long run. And so I'd like to give a little bit more leeway to staff on that. Obviously, we'll still have some limitations in place and some protections in place, but I think it's worth reviewing as a group. And I'd like to get your feedback on whether you agree with me taking this route, because I wouldn't want to go and spend 20 hours working on this and then find out that you guys think we're good currently, and I'm barking up the wrong tree, so to speak. So I'd love to have any feedback.
I'm good with it.
I'm good with it. I mean, I think being new, and I know our interim city manager was trying to change some of that stuff before she left, and I never got to it. But I mean, I think it's always good to look at it. I mean, with today's cost, I mean, me personally, I don't understand why I have to approve a Canon copier if we have an agreement, if you really want to know the truth. But that's what our purchasing policy tells me I have to do. But, I mean, I think that's for your job to do.
Yeah, appreciate that.
We ran into that situation a lot with the 150th birthday committee, and so yes, please do look at it, please.
Yeah, because they'll have to do it for next year. It's part of it.
Oh, for next
Not
year's
next
party.
year.
Anybody else? Item K, or that was K.
L.
Item L, Public Arts Council.
Another thing we're looking at doing, and I want feedback from you all on whether I'm going down the right path here. I think public art has the potential to be a quality of life feature that can spur economic development. It can spur tourism. It can spur. It can be a decision, help sway decisions for when people are looking for a place to relocate or to locate, whether they're a young professional or a family or even a senior. Some of these quality of life things, like public art, can make a difference in your community. And I've got some access to some data that I will obviously be sharing as I bring this forward, probably in the form of a resolution is my guess. But we'll discuss the format of how that'll come forward to you guys. But I'll have some data for you guys to look at and some research that shows the difference that public art can make in a community. And I think that we need to create a public arts council. I think we need to look at it intentionally, and we need to try to find a way to, I don't know, incentivize is a strong word, but definitely get people to try to invest in public art here in this, and we can lead the way here with a plan and some intentionality through the form of a public arts council. And when I say public arts, I'm not talking about just paintings, or we could talk sculptures, performance art, all of that can be included in that kind of discussion, and I think that that the community is ready for it, I believe.
Go ahead.
I think 7 of us last July, we had a vision meeting. The other 2 are not here with us anymore, and we got 2 new ones. But I think in our vision meeting, we actually said that's something that we should be looking at as an arts council, if I remember right.
July of,
Correct.
Yeah, was it a year and a half ago? Yeah, it was last July. You weren't here then. Not this past July, a year and a half ago. Yeah.
July 21, yes.
But I think that's something that we brought out in the vision, is something that we don't have that other communities do have. We're actually trying to figure out who we could put on there, which...
Sure. Well, the idea of a public arts council and a lot of these next 3 work session items that we're going to be discussing we're intending to be intentional in what we do and how we plan things, and also engage the community and get stakeholders that are in those spaces involved in helping us to make decisions and make recommendations to the council so you guys can make decisions.
Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Item M, Senior Living Board.
Along the same lines of a public arts council, I think that it's important that we engage the seniors in our community to help to ensure that we are providing the best community for seniors to live in. There are senior livability indexes out there that actually rate how well a community does in livability for seniors, and it looks at things like access to health care and public transportation and walking trails and just lots of different things, senior activities available, that type of stuff. I think it's important, again, to be intentional in looking at what we can do to make our community senior friendly, and it's an investment that could pay off. And so we'll reach out and try to get some folks in the community to help us with that, and they can provide some feedback as to what we can do to improve as a community for senior livability.
Because you are getting old.
Right, yeah, I got gray hair, right? I do have a couple people already coming to mind for that. My only question to you, and I'm looking at our list here. Are we trying to take on too much at one time, and should we pick 1 or 2 of these and start and then move into some of these other ones instead of going all into the 6 or 7 of these ones that you're trying to do?
We're not going to rush in anything, and we're going to let these things naturally grow as they are, and I'm not going to force anything. And if something doesn't stick, that's fine. I just want to give everybody an opportunity to be involved in making recommendations to what we're doing.
I mean, I think a lot of them are good.
Sure, I get the point.
I mean, we went a year and a half, or about at least a year, with staff being overridden with a lot of stuff to do, and I just don't want to get us back into that point that soon, but yeah.
Fair enough. That's a good point to make. One of the things that I've been working with the senior staff especially, but and with the rest of staff as an extension, is to make sure that we're looking at doing some high-paced work here and making sure that we're providing as much service for the community as we possibly can. And if we get to a point where we have to push back and say slow down on things, we'll do that. But I mean, we're gonna keep moving forward until we get to that point.
I mean, I like the ideas and I liked moving forward and all
Sure.
that. I just want to make sure we're doing it at a pace that we can handle and staff can handle.
That's fair.
Go ahead.
Well, while we took a slight detour, last night you mentioned, and you're right, that 1992 was our last plan for Belton. And you've mentioned several times in this conversation making sure we're all on the same path. But where's that stand? Updating that.
You guys will have something, I would assume, we're working on that. Staff is working on that.
Okay.
You're talking about comprehensive plan is what you're
Yes.
talking about. Yeah, the city hasn't had a comprehensive plan done in 30 years, and that is well overdue. Those things generally have a 20-year shelf life at the most. And given the level of growth, especially commercial growth, but the growth that we've had in the last 10, 15 years here, and the expected growth the next 10 to 15 years, we may want to do a 10-year comprehensive plan, to be perfectly frank, because things are going to change so quickly or have the potential to change so quickly. We want to make sure we're on top of that. And so, yeah, we're working on having something for you guys to consider on that, because that will involve some investment in getting some folks to help us create that plan.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you expect that next couple months. You'll see more on that.
You talk about plans. I mean, we talked about in 2006, our community did a community vision program, and I think doing something like that again, we've talked about doing something like that. I think bringing out some of these committees would be perfect for that.
I think that
'Cause that's where you can get people's interest and bought in and stuff like that, because they're part of the process, so.
This is kind of, pie in the sky, I think, potentially, but what I'm hoping for is we get some of these committees in place and get them up and running and allow them to function, and they can be a key part in us creating some visioning in the future, because that gives us some built-in engagement and touch points to the community.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Item N, Police Public Safety Advisory Board.
This one is along the same lines, but this will take a little longer to flesh out, I believe, than some of these others. So I wouldn't expect you guys to see this next meeting or anytime in the next couple meetings. We're doing some research. I know that Chief Lyons is working on doing some research as to what the best form and format that could potentially take, but we think it's important that we have some kind of avenue for the public to go and provide feedback to our public safety units, whether that's police alone or police and fire and EMS. We haven't, fleshed that out yet. I know other communities have done it different ways. Some have had a combined public safety advisory board. Some have just done police specifically. But I know that some of the things that they're up against with public perception, we want to make sure that we're engaging the public to get as much feedback on how we're policing as possible. So nothing is even close to ready on that yet, but I wanted to bring that to your attention because it's something we're exploring, and if it's something you guys don't think we should do, I'd like to get ahead of that now before we get down the research too far.
Can you give just an example of things that you might see? I know you can't, but.
Well, these things can take a wide swath or wide variety of forms and functions. I know some cities go as far as to allow any policy that the public safety entities enforce go through this committee, but I'm not sure that we're going to go that extreme. I think that it's just what we'd like to do is if there are incidents that involve public safety, we'd like to be able, at the very least, to have some review on the back end and understanding of how they're being perceived publicly. It allows us to take a little bit of a critical, eye without hopefully having, too much, what's the word I'm looking for? Controversy. Hopefully we can approach what we're doing with a critical eye without having a major blow up first, if that makes sense.
So it'd be gathering feedback about.
Mike.
It's on.
All right, don't sound like it.
So, So it'd be gathering feedback, providing citizens' opinions of
Yes.
contacts and,
And yeah, and how the exact form of that and the nature of it is, again, it's done a lot of different ways throughout different communities. So I mean, we can do whatever we think is best for our current situation in our community. It's definitely not. I don't want it to be thought of as a critique of our PD at all. It's literally just being proactive and making sure that we're staying engaged with the community, because that could go south quickly if we're not careful, if that makes sense.
Anybody else?
Chief, you want to say anything about that?
The City of Lee Summit has a public safety advisory board where they meet regularly with police and fire. A lot of the meetings, there's presentation over response times, statistics from both agencies, but there's some key issues that have been floated through that public safety advisory board that you see the results today, and that would be, as the city grows, what kind of service would be, favorable to the city, implementing certain types of policing, community-oriented policing, shortening geographical districts to provide more police in smaller areas, or tackling key issues. I just made some notes, regarding homelessness. That would be something that I would be talking about, some of the efforts that we're making with Compass here lately with some of the crisis action center that was just created. Drugs, overdoses would be a topic. Suicide is a big concern for this community as well, and those are big topics that are just more than just researching and bringing something to City Council. And bouncing that off of people that are in the community would be pertinent to get their opinion.
Anybody else? Item O, Tourism Council.
This is the fourth and final of these that I'm bringing to you guys today, and there's not going to be a whole lot more coming forward in the future. I realize that to Councilmember Clark's opinion about going too fast and getting spread too thin too quickly. The Tourism Council, though, is a specific type of council. I'm looking at our assets, looking at the folks who are already looking at tourism. I would envision that we would engage the chamber to help us with this. And kind of formalize our tourism relationship with them a little bit, and then just making sure that we're looking at all aspects of tourism and where we can make improvements, and best practices, that type of thing, and ensuring that they have the support that they need from our community to bring people into the community. Tourism is easy money if you can do it, and so we're trying to figure that out.
Any questions? Item P, ward meetings.
Yeah, we had one ward meeting. I know Councilmember White mentioned or gave a report on that ward meeting, and I mentioned as part of the budget process, we do want to meet with the wards, and so there are 3 wards that we have not had meetings with yet, and just reaching out to you folks and letting you know Mary's already, my assistant's already working on getting those scheduled for the next 3 wards, so we can get those done in the next couple of weeks. As part of the budget process, you guys can have some feedback as to what is important in your ward specifically as we start to dial in the budget for 2024.
Any questions?
That was more informational than work session, I guess, but.
We actually did one last year. It was more of a crime watch also. Chief Lyons came and Lieutenant Davis and Chief Sapp, you were there? Someone from fire was there, I know that. But I mean, the problem is just getting participation. I think we had about 5 or 6 residents show up. They had a good one, but they have an issue going on over their ward that I'm assuming a lot of those people came from that subdivision too. So, but it'd be nice if people would actually come to them.
Yeah, Brett, what was your guys' turnout like last night?
for what I have done in the past, extremely well.
There are over 20 people there.
I would say close to about 30-ish is right in the ballpark.
Okay, thanks.
I was just telling Brett, though, that unfortunately, there's several issues going on in Ward 4, so we didn't have as much time to talk about their ideas for budget. They didn't come prepared to give those ideas. They had bigger things to them on their minds. But
I got a couple of notes from them. It was
great.
it was
Okay.
useful.
Good, good.
Anybody else? Q, personnel code changes.
All right, now this is related to the item that you guys thankfully did not pass today at the start of this meeting. And I'm pointing out that this is our personnel code essentially right now. This is what's codified as far as our personnel policy. It's about 32 pages long. And I did the research on what's codified as far as personnel policy in other cities in the area. The cities I looked at specifically are Grandview and Raymore and Peculiar and Lee Summit and I believe Blue Springs is the fifth one. And combined codified personnel policy that they have, there was 19 pages in all 5 of those combined. So that just, to me, that shows that we're a little bit out of whack with what the industry norm is and what, best practices are. That's not to say that we shouldn't have a personnel policy that's in depth, that addresses all personnel issues. We should. My intention is that I would like to bring forward to you folks in the very near future a change in that code, an ordinance that would change that code specifically to allow us to take most of that code out of the code of ordinances and make it a standalone personnel policy. It would still require approval from the council. We're not trying to get this out of council approval. We just want to take it out of code because once it's in code, there are there's very little leeway in how that is interpreted and whatnot. And sometimes personnel issues are not nearly as cut and dry as what the code might say. And especially having a new HR director that can help us work through the final stages of what we think is some potential changes in the personnel policy that could be useful for our staff. We'd like to take a lot of that out, have an ordinance that says, here, we will do a personnel policy, it will meet these basic criteria, and then it will come before council for approval, and then that's essentially what it would say. There are a couple of the cities I mentioned that only have like one paragraph or one page of actual personnel policy in their code. And so that's why I'd like to go in that direction if that pleases you folks.
Any questions, thoughts?
And if you're against that, I'd like to hear that now too, because I don't want to work on that again. Another thing that's going to change the code and get barking up the wrong tree.
Seems like everybody's good. I'd entertain a motion to enter an executive session to discuss matters pertaining to legal actions according to Missouri State Statute 610.21.1 to discuss matters pertaining to leasing, purchase, or sale of real estate according to Missouri State Statute 610.21.2 and to discuss matters pertaining to negotiated contracts according to Missouri State Statute 610.21.12 and that the record be closed and the meeting adjourned from there.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussions? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Pryan,
Aye.
Kraft,
Aye.
Powell,
Yes?
White,
Yes.
Clark,
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Mayor Larkey,
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Motion carries.